Ever catch yourself, daydreaming about striking it rich, like winning the lottery or maybe investing in some like big thing everyone's suddenly talking about?
That's a pretty common daydream.
Right. But today's deep dive, well, this one throws those fantasies out the window.
Yeah.
We're getting real about wealth, like the kind that lasts. We're cracking open The Millionaire Next Door.
Classic. And a great choice for really understanding the reality of wealth building.
Totally. So for anyone who maybe hasn't had a chance to read it yet, what's this book all about?
Well, Millionaire Next Door, it was huge when it came out, And it's because it didn't just spin series. Stanley and Danko, the authors, they went straight to the source. Studying those self-made millionaires to understand their actual habits, how they think about money.
And I've got to say, some of their findings really turned those stereotypical images of millionaires on their head.
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't all, fancy cars and mansions.
Exactly. They found that, and this is what's so fascinating, the people you might least expect, the ones living surprisingly, ordinary lives, they're often the ones who have actually built real wealth.
It's like that saying, don't judge a book by its cover, You could have a millionaire living right next door, driving an old car, wearing a totally normal watch.
Blending right in.
Yep. But their true wealth, it's not about the outward show. It's in their financial habits, this disciplined approach to money they've cultivated.
It's eye-opening for sure. And the book lays out 7 common factors they discovered amongst all these wealth builders. So first up, and I think a lot of people might see this one coming, frugality.
And this is key, it's more than just being careful with your spending. It's really a mindset, this commitment to really squeezing the most value you can out of every single dollar.
Yeah, it's about being intentional, right? Like the book talks about Johnny Lucas, one of the millionaires profiled. He chooses get this, a $399 suit over a $1,000 suit.
Even though he could clearly afford the pricier one, right?
Exactly. So why do you think someone like that makes that choice?
Because he understands that the true luxury, it's not the brand name, it's the financial freedom. It's about aligning your spending, your everyday choices with your long-term goals.
It's about playing the long game.
Exactly. And often you see the millionaires in the book, their spouses share this commitment to frugality. It becomes a team effort, this shared value that, it underpins their entire approach to money.
And that shared commitment can make a huge difference. There's this, I don't know if you remember this one, but the book tells this pretty funny story about this millionaire's wife. And she loves to clip coupons.
Oh, yeah, I think I remember that.
So even after her husband surprises her with, get this, a brand new car, you know what she's still doing?
What's she doing?
Clipping coupons.
It's it's ingrained.
Totally. Which shows, to me at least, that it's not about deprivation, right? It's about being smart, intentional with your money, no matter how much you have.
Absolutely. And, that leads right into another one of those key factors, meticulous planning and budgeting.
Millionaires, they don't just wing it, huh?
Nope. These are folks who, they track their expenses, they know where every dollar's going, they make really conscious decisions about their money. Remember Mrs. Rule, the millionaire auctioneer?
Yeah, she was all about that budget.
It gave her this sense of control, and I think, importantly, a peace of mind, that a lot of those, even those high-income earners who are living paycheck to paycheck only dream of. They might have the big salaries, but it's those disciplined planners, like Mrs. Rule, who end up building lasting wealth.
It's about having a roadmap instead of just, driving blindfolded, right? Knowing where you want to go and having a plan to actually get there. But okay, so one of the things that totally surprised me in the book was about the types of people who become millionaires. You'd think, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but you'd think millionaires, they'd all be these high-powered executives.
It's a common image people have.
Right. But Stanley and Danko, they found millionaires in the most ordinary and honestly kind of surprising professions.
Like, for example, auctioneers.
Auctioneers.
Yeah. The book actually highlights how they're, typically frugal lifestyles, and often the fact that they're living in these smaller towns, lower costs of living, it puts them in this prime position to actually build serious wealth.
So it's not always about the high-paying job. It's about what you do with what you earn.
Exactly.
It really challenges those stereotypes. They're not flashing their cash. They're quietly building wealth through discipline and smart choices. But, okay, so here's where things get, I don't know, maybe a little more eye-opening. The book also talks about this other group, the underaccumulator of wealth, or they call them UAWs.
Oh, yeah, the UAWs.
So who are these UAWs?
Well, the UAWs, it's interesting. They often have those high incomes, the big salaries, but they struggle to actually build wealth. And it's because their spending, it tends to keep pace with, or sometimes even outpace, their earnings.
Oh, they've got the fancy cars, the big houses, all the outward signs of wealth.
But they might be one, unexpected expense away from, honestly, some serious financial trouble.
It's like they're on that treadmill, right? Running and running, but not really getting anywhere.
Perfect analogy. And the book actually tells the story of Teddy Friend. He's a high-earning salesman, and he's kind of a classic example of a UAW.
What happened with Teddy?
Teddy, he prioritized a really lavish lifestyle, always chasing the next big thing instead of, focusing on building that long-term financial security. It's a bit of a cautionary tale, I think, reminding us that true wealth, it's not about keeping up with the Joneses. It's about making those choices, those spending choices that really align with your values, with your goals.
With what actually matters to you long-term.
Yes. And speaking of choices, one area where the book, I think, really makes you pause, makes you think, is this idea of economic outpatient care. They call it EOC.
Okay, yeah, EOC. What exactly is that about?
So EOC, it's basically those well-intentioned parents. We've probably all known someone like this who are constantly, bailing their adult children out financially.
It's tough, right? Because you want to help your kid?
Of course. And those parents, they often have the absolute best intentions. They want their kids to get ahead, to not struggle. But what's interesting is the book argues that it can often backfire. It creates this cycle of dependency.
Instead of helping them become independent.
Exactly. That the kids, they never really learn to manage money on their own to become truly financially independent.
It's that saying, right? Like giving someone a fish instead of teaching them how to fish.
That's a great way to put it. And to really drive that point home, the book shares this very compelling story. It's about Mary and Lamar. They're a couple, and they're struggling financially. And part of it's because of Mary's mother, who's constantly providing financial help.
Oh, wow. So it's well-intentioned, but
it's actually causing more harm than good. And it highlights these unintended consequences of EOC, showing how it can actually hinder rather than help in the long run.
It's a tough love message. But I get it. Sometimes the best way to help is to, step back and let them figure things out.
Absolutely. Now, to be fair, the book does say that not all EOC is bad. If you're supporting a child's education or maybe helping them, start a business, that can be different.
It's like a strategic investment in their future.
Exactly. It's about empowering them to become self-sufficient, not fostering that dependence. And that whole idea, that empowerment piece, it really comes through in the book's discussion about raising financially responsible kids.
Yeah, this is so important. It's one thing to manage your own money well, but how do you teach your kids to do the same?
Right. And the book, it really emphasizes teaching kids about money from a young age, not just, handing it to them.
Make them work for it.
In a way, yeah. And one of the best examples, this one stuck with me, is this guy, Dr. North. He had this really interesting approach to teaching his kids about the value of money.
How do you do that?
Well, instead of just, giving his kids cash whenever they wanted something, he made them, get this, partially fund their own major purchases.
So even though he could afford to buy it for them outright,
he made them contribute. This way, they learned firsthand, what it actually takes to earn and save money. It built this strong work ethic, this deeper appreciation for the value of money.
Wow. I love that. So it's not just about, here's some money, kid, go spend it. It's about instilling those values.
Exactly. And it wasn't all, tough love. He also created this thing called, get this, the King's Rules.
The King's Rule sounds intense.
Right. It was this poster, basically. And it outlined all these principles, but not just about money. It was stuff like resilience, responsibility, being resourceful.
Life skills.
Yes. It was about building character alongside those financial habits.
Teaching them to navigate the world, not just, balance a checkbook.
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked about habits, about being intentional. But even with all that, the book acknowledges that sometimes, even millionaires, they need guidance, especially when it comes to managing their wealth, right?
It's a lot to handle.
It is. But here's the thing. The millionaires in the book, they're incredibly discerning about who they trust with their money.
So they're not just picking a name out of the phone book.
Definitely not. The book really emphasizes the importance of choosing the right financial advisor. And not just, going with the first person who gives you a good sales pitch. You got to Do your research.
Vet them thoroughly.
Exactly. Like, take Mr. Martin, for example. He's one of the guys profiled in the book.
Yeah.
He's a really savvy investor, right? But he only chooses advisors who've been recommended to him by people he really trusts, like his accountant, his attorney, people who've known him a long time.
It's about trust, but it's also about, like you said, doing your homework, making sure whoever you're trusting with your money, they've got the experience, the track record to back it up.
It's not just about trust. It's about, like you said, doing your homework, making sure whoever you're trusting with your money, they've got the experience, the track record to back it up.
It's like finding a financial partner, someone to walk alongside you on your wealth-building journey.
That's a great way to think about it.
And speaking of journeys, you wouldn't believe what the book says about millionaires and, get this, their cars.
Oh, yeah, this is a good one. A lot of people are surprised by this.
So spill the beans. What's the deal with millionaires and their cars?
Okay, so get ready for this. A surprisingly large number of millionaires, and we're talking even those with those, substantial incomes, they prefer to buy used cars.
Used cars.
Yeah, because think about it. New cars, they lose value the second they're driven off the lot.
Depreciation is brutal.
Exactly. So these millionaires, they're savvy. They'd rather let someone else take that initial depreciation hit.
It's like they're playing the system, but in a smart way.
Right. They'd rather invest that money elsewhere, put it to work, building more wealth. It goes back to that value-conscious mindset we were talking about. They don't feel the need to, impress anyone with some flashy new ride.
It makes you wonder, who is buying all those new luxury cars then?
Well, the book actually talks about that, too. It suggests that it's often those who are still on that, that upward climb towards wealth, that the ones who are maybe, seeking validation through, those material possessions.
Instead of focusing on the bigger picture.
Exactly. They're focused on I guess you could say, the appearance of wealth rather than the substance of it.
It's that classic trap, right?
Yeah.
Trying to look rich versus actually being rich.
And that, I think, ties back beautifully to one of the book's biggest takeaways. That whole idea of, teaching children about wealth, not just giving it to them.
It's like that example we talked about earlier with the dad who made his kids help pay for their own big purchases, even though he could totally afford to just buy it for them.
Exactly. It's all connected. It's about, teaching those essential financial literacy skills early on, helping them understand that real wealth, it's built through effort, through planning, through making smart choices over time. It's not something that's, just handed down.
It's about setting them up for success long term, not just in their bank accounts, but in life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we kind of, start to wrap up our deep dive here, our deep dive into The Millionaire Next Door, what are some of those key takeaways, those golden nuggets of wisdom that we can take away and maybe even apply in our own lives?
I love that question because it's not just about reading a fascinating book. It's about, like you said, applying it.
Right. So for me, I think one of the biggest things I take away from the book is this. Building wealth, it's not about luck. It's not about, some huge inheritance or even necessarily having a super high-paying job.
It's about mindset.
Yes. It's about cultivating those right habits, making those sometimes tough, disciplined choices, and really importantly, adopting that long-term perspective.
Playing the long game. Just like those millionaires buying used cars. It's about being intentional with your money, maybe delaying gratification a little bit, and really investing in your future self.
So well said. And I think it's also important to remember that true wealth, it's not like this number in your bank account. It's about freedom. It's about the freedom to live your life on your own terms, to pursue your passions, to maybe even, make a difference in the world, whatever that looks like for you.
It's about aligning your money with your values, with the things that really matter to you.
Exactly.
I love that. So to everyone listening, as you go about your day, your week, challenge yourself, right? Challenge yourself to kind of think like a millionaire next door. Look for those opportunities to make those value-driven choices, to maybe invest a little more wisely, and to, if you have kids, to start teaching them about the power of financial literacy early on. You might just surprise yourself with the wealth you can build, not just financially, but in all areas of your life.
That's what it's all about.